Let's jump right into this explainer, and we are starting right at the boiling point of a highly emotional family drama. We're talking hidden identities, toxic family dynamics, and honestly, one of the most breathtaking moments of quiet vindication you'll ever hear about. It really makes you wonder, what do you do when the people who are supposed to love you the most just constantly underestimate you? Do you fight back? Do you hide? Or do you just build your own table? Well, today we're unpacking the incredible journey of a woman named Helen and a massive secret she kept under wraps for almost 20 years. Picture this scenario for a second. You're standing in the pristine marble lobby of an ultra-exclusive restaurant. You're holding a box of 120 meticulous handmade pastries that you spent your entire Saturday night baking for your sister's lavish baby shower. But you walk in, the hostess checks this fancy brass easel with a calligraphy seating chart, and there is no chair with your name on it. Nothing. You walk up to your family, and your pregnant sister looks up from her mimosa and delivers this absolutely crushing dismissal. She actually suggests you go to the, quote, dirty pub across the street. And your mom, instead of defending you, she just raises her glass and agrees. Ouch. 40 seconds, literally 40 seconds, is exactly how long it takes our protagonist, Helen, to walk away from her family's cruelty at that baby shower, cross a two-lane street, and step right into a massive secret she has been keeping for nearly 2 decades. Just 40 seconds to travel between the incredibly small life her family projected onto her and the massive reality she had secretly built for herself. So get this. To her status-obsessed mother, Carol, Helen was essentially a 36-year-old lingering disappointment. Carol introduced her to friends as someone who just, helps out at a bar. Just a girl in the service industry still trying to find her footing. But Helen's actual reality? She was Chef Ash, the highly successful chef and owner of that very pub across the street called the Kettle Black. And it wasn't just any pub. This place had recently stunned the culinary world by earning a Michelin star. A star that she actually kept hidden, framed next to her dishwashing station instead of out front, just so her family wouldn't find out and somehow ruin it. To really get this, we have to trace things back 19 years, to the tragic death of her father. He was a diner cook who worked double shifts and lived by this golden rule: nobody leaves his table hungry. When he passed away from a heart attack at 49, Helen was only 17. Her grieving, incredibly status-conscious mother immediately threw out all his cooking gear like it was infected evidence. But Helen rescued his skillet. She fled to Chicago at 18 to wash dishes, worked her way up through brutal kitchens, literally burn by burn, and eventually made her way back to Atlanta to buy an old pub from her landlord, Gus.
The absolute emotional anchor of her entire life is this single cast iron skillet. It's got the letters F.A. carved into the handle by her father, Frank Ashford, with his own pocket knife. Helen had to literally dig this thing out of the trash on the curb after her mother chucked it. For years, shivering in freezing studio apartments and sweating in grueling kitchens, this skillet was the only thing of value she owned. It stood for everything authentic about her dad's love, which was a total contrast to her mother's superficial world.
Fast forward back to today, and the contrast between the sisters' baby shower venue, Meridian, and Helen's pub, the Kettle Black, is just jarring. Meridian is all glass, marble, valets, and imported orchids. It's a palace of superficial wealth and rented luxury. But right across the crosswalk is the Kettle Black. It's housed in this 100-year-old brick building, complete with a faded green door that's propped open by a literal brick. It's gritty, it's real, and it proudly serves night shift nurses and electricians, right alongside fancy food critics. Okay, so to understand how things got this bad, we really have to look at the mom, Carol. Helen actually describes her mother's life as this very calculated machine. Step 1, decide who matters. Step 2, arrange the chairs to prove it. And step 3, let the seating chart do the talking. Carol uses events like Sunday dinners and, yes, this baby shower as psychological weapons to enforce this brutal social hierarchy. Basically, if you don't fit her shiny image of success, you get introduced as a footnote, or worse, you just get left off the guest list completely. Now, despite knowing exactly how her mother's toxic machine operates, Helen still baked 120 hand pies, totally for free, for this shower. Why? Well, because she made a promise at her dad's funeral that she would never be the one to walk away from the family table first. Plus, she wanted to honor her unborn niece. But her reward for all this massive effort? Facing the ultimate public exclusion in front of 40 guests while her own food was displayed on a silver stand under a sign that credited the Meridian Kitchen. Unreal. Which brings us right back to that wild climax. After taking that cruel dismissal from her sister on the chin, Helen simply smiles, says, "I'll do that," and walks out. She crosses the street to her own pub. But what she momentarily forgot is that Meridian's front room is made entirely of glass. So as she walks into her quote-unquote dirty pub to prep for Sunday lunch service for 40 people, including her mom and sister, have a front-row aquarium-style view of everything that's about to go down. Standing there in full view of Meridian's massive glass windows, Helen's staff greets her. Her sous chef holds open her pristine white chef's coat like a matador. Helen slides her arms in and buttons it all the way up to the collar. And right there, stitched in gold over the pocket, it says H. Ashford, and right beneath that, chef owner. In about 15 seconds, clearly visible through 40 feet of April air, Helen inadvertently shatters her family's entire illusion. She instantly reveals to them that she isn't the help. She is the boss. The reaction is priceless. One of the mother's pretentious friends literally pulls out her phone, finds the anonymous Michelin review of the pub online, and reads this line out loud to the entire baby shower party. Whoever she is, she cooks like someone keeping a promise. As the mother and sister watch their perceived superiority completely disintegrate, the sister's mimosa actually spills right down her dress. Helen's mom, who spent years treating Helen like a stain on the family's reputation, is just frozen in shock as the reality of Helen's massive success finally sinks in. But wait, it gets even crazier. Because while they were mocking Helen's pub, Madison's husband, Tyler, was secretly drowning in debt. His whole life was built out of cardboard and gold paint. That fancy baby shower, funded by a dead corporate card from a dissolved startup. His luxury truck, repossessed right off the street. All the monogrammed cribs and leased luxury was nothing but a facade, and it was rapidly collapsing. Just days later, the sisters' facade completely crumbles. Tyler actually abandons his 8 months pregnant wife, the bank accounts freeze, and a destitute, sobbing Madison shows up at the back door of Helen's pub in the pouring rain. But talk about intense timing. On this exact same rainy Saturday night, Helen is hosting a career-making national television crew. She desperately needs this broadcast to secure a bank loan, buy her building, and save her restaurant from being swallowed up by corporate developers. So here is Helen faced with a massive dilemma and, frankly, the ultimate opportunity for petty revenge. Her sister, who literally banished her from a table just days ago, is now begging for help right while Helen's shining future is unfolding in the dining room. What would you do in that moment? Well, Helen looks at her sister, and she remembers her late father's core philosophy: nobody leaves my table hungry. In a truly stunning display of grace, Helen makes her choice. She hands over her entire kitchen and the most important service of her life to her sous chef. She walks out to the dining room, kicks the national TV crew out, and tosses away her broadcast opportunity. Why? Because, as she puts it, her family falling apart in an alley is not content. Instead, she brings her soaking wet, heartbroken sister inside, takes down her dad's rescued cast-iron skillet, and warms up a peach hand pie just to feed her. This incredibly quiet act of grace creates a profound ripple effect. It actually leads to a late-night confession. Her mother comes to the empty pub and finally explains the root of her toxic behavior. Turns out, years ago, as a struggling waitress just trying to feed her kids, she was humiliated at a country club by wealthy women snapping their fingers at her like a dog. That trauma terrified her. She threw away the father's skillet because she was deeply, desperately afraid her daughters would end up as quote-unquote the help. Her cruelty wasn't just snobbery. It was this hugely misguided, fearful defense mechanism against poverty and humiliation. Ultimately, Helen refuses to operate her mother's toxic, status-driven machine. Instead of using her newfound leverage to punish them, she sets an entirely new table. Madison moves into the apartment right above the pub and becomes the bookkeeper. The pearl-wearing mother puts on a canvas apron and actually learns how to make dough in the very kitchen she used to despise. When the baby, Frankie, is born, the whole family sits around the staff table eating out of the dad's old skillet. And beautifully, Helen always keeps one chair empty at the restaurant now, for anyone who wanders in, just needing a place to belong. As we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. Have you ever been the one your family underestimated? Helen spent 20 years trying to earn a seat at their table, and one rainy Saturday giving hers away. The incredible takeaway here is that your worth is never something you have to prove to people who refuse to look at you. It's something you cook into the world anyway, until the ones who truly matter find their way to your kitchen. So set your own table and set it proudly. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack this remarkable story, and I'll catch you next time.